Okay, and welcome to the next video in our 2D game series. Today I'm going to cover quite a lot. Um, we're going to talk about physics, adding physics, which is gravity, to your character, adding colliders. Then I'm going to talk about adding scripts, okay? And then finally, I'm going to talk about, while we're talking about the playground scripts, and talk about how to create a new level. So this is going to be divided up into chapters. This first part, I'm just going to talk about how to, once you've put in your sprites into your background, do a few different things with them, giving you some options. Okay, so we left off here where I had put in a sardine on my character. A sardine is going to be for health for me. Like he's going to eat it and get healthier. And then my little penguin, I haven't added my enemies yet, but I started also using, in addition to my own artwork that I've done, I went into Playground here in my project folder and I went down to images, and you have a lot of different things to choose from. And here I went and added a stone. I added it here, and actually I did a few things to make it more my own. Now, over here in the sprites, you have a base color. You could do this with all of your sprites. You'll have a base color, and if you double click on it, it'll bring you up to a color wheel. And here I have the option of changing the base color. Of course, the color on top will affect it, but to me, this stone actually kind of matched the coral that I made in the background here of my game. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and use it and kind of match the color so that I can use this with, instead of this is flat on my drawing in my sprite in the background, my background sprite. On this one, I can actually add a collider and guide my penguin around into like a maze and give him obstacles and things. And I'll make this coral an obstacle. So I've changed the base color from white. It was originally this one down here. And I've changed the color here. And I've renamed it coral in my hierarchy. I've also added a treasure chest. If we scoot out here, down here, this is going to be my goal. And I got this. You can see it's very small, but it's actually only small because in the camera it will be a little bit bigger. But I got that from the images here in the Unity Playground under game elements. So there's a lot of different things already in your playground package that you can use and alter. If I wanted to alter this treasure chest, for example, change the color to be more under the sea, which might be nice because right now it kind of sticks out. So maybe I want to give it like a slight blue tint. So it kind of works more with the color palette that I'm using here. That looks a little green. Let's see if we turn it a little bit more blue or purple. I think like right in here somewhere. I don't want it too dark because I want it to kind of stick out, but I want it to kind of blend in a little bit more. So now it seems like it's kind of blending in a bit more to its background. I'll add a bunch more decorative elements, but first I want to go over how to add physics and how to add colliders and how to add some scripts to your character. Okay. So let's select my penguin first, my character, since he's the most important. You can see over here that I have him as his base color is white. I could flip him around, but I don't need to because he's pretty much the same on either side. He's facing forward. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add a component over here in my inspector, add component. The first thing I want to do is add a collider. So in my search bar here, it'll be empty. You can either do it like this through physics and search through physics, or you could just go ahead and just type in collider. And I have to look at his shape. Now, he's more round than he is square, so I want to use a circle collider 2D around him. I'll go ahead and hit circle collider 2D. And if I zoom in here on him, you can see this little, it's actually a green line. It's kind of hard to tell on my monitor, but it's here. And if I look over here, I've got these extra options here. My radius and is trigger, and then I've got an offset. Now, is trigger is used for a motion, meaning it's triggering an event and not actually creating like this invisible barrier around my game object, my penguin game object. So this is trigger is used for certain scripts, but when it's just a regular collider, you want to make sure this is unchecked. Now, in my radius, you can see that it's been automatically assigned by Unity because I sliced my sprite quite close and they see how small he is. Now, if I hadn't sliced the sprite, this collider couldn't get very close to him. So make sure your sprites were sliced as per the last video. You can adjust the radius either by typing in the number, okay, and I'm going to hit Control Z to go back, or if I hover my mouse just in front of the number, you can see these two little side arrows pop up. So if I hold down my left mouse button, I can also adjust my collider this way. So I can make it maybe a little smaller. I don't need his wings to be colliding with things. I want mainly his body. So I'm going to bring it in just a little bit here, maybe to 7. So if I want to make it an even number, I could just type in here 7. And now my collider has changed. Now, if I want to slide it to the right or left, I can use this offset here just to move it up or down, or left or right here. Okay, put it back here with Control Z, Control Z. Now my collider is there. And if he runs into something else that has a collider, like my stone here, let me select my coral and also add a collider to this. This one has a weird shape. Let me back out. So if it has a very strange shape like this, it's not a circle or a box, I'm going to use what's called a polygon collider 2D. Now, the reason that I don't like to use polygon colliders a lot is because they take up a lot of memory versus a circle or a square. So use these only when you need them because you can see it's creating a lot of different colliders, which adds more memory. Uh, it takes up more computing power on your laptop or on your PC. So that's why we wouldn't use them on everything. So for example, my penguin. Okay. So now I have these two, and if they bump into each other, now it's like an invisible fence. They won't go through each other. So even though I have my visibility layers set on different here on 2, okay, and maybe my penguin is on 1. I can't remember what he's on. Well, he's also on 2, which is fine. Remember, the higher the number in your visibility layer, the closer it is to the camera. So when you're layering sprites, okay. All right, so now on my penguin, I also want to add gravity. Maybe I don't need gravity in this setting, but maybe I do. So I want to go ahead and add this. You can either add it by um, going to physics in your list, physics 2D, okay, and looking for, there's always a lot here. Your rigid body 2D, this is where gravity is, okay? Or you could just do it in the search, just like you did with the collider. So I'm going to add a rigid body 2D. Now, this is giving me quite a few options with my penguin. I need to decide his mass, his friction, meaning like when he's sliding across an object like the ground, is it or through the air, is it really slippery like ice, or is it going to be like sliding on carpet? So you would change your friction higher if you want it to be a little bit slower and have a little bit more pull instead of just zooming everywhere. I'm going to change my friction, and it might say angular drag or drag instead of friction. Depends on the version of Unity that you're using, okay? And gravity. Now, with gravity, if I hit play, he automatically drops down out of the frame. And in this game, I really don't want him to have gravity because I want him to be free floating. So I'm going to set my gravity to 0. But he still has some mass. So that gives him, like when I start moving him around, it's going to give him uh, some sort of slowness and physicality. Okay, that's why it's called physics. All right, next I need to add a script so that he can move. And I'm going to go to I'm going to put try to keep this always like organized. So your little arrows here. I'm going to go under playground in Unity Technologies and go to the scripts here. And I can double click here and it'll open here. I want to go to the movement tab. You can look here and this tells you the breadcrumb trail, we call this, where your um, files are located. So I'm going to open up this one and I'm going to look for movement. Now, these are pre-done scripts that Playground has already done. Okay, if I click on it, here's all the information. Okay, so it's looking for a rigid body, and we don't need to assign the script a rigid body. What we're going to do is assign the script to the penguin, who already has a rigid body, the physics that we've put on it. So there's two ways you can do this. Actually, I think there's three, but you can either drag and drop it directly on him, or you can put it over here to the side and put it in between your components when the little blue line shows up. Let go of the mouse and it will go right in there. So now he's got a move component. Now you see this little gizmo? It went right to where his pivot point is. If you remember in the last video, when I brought him in, I moved his pivot point to the bottom. So that's why you'll see this little gizmo here. Oh, you have a thing to be able to turn on and off gizmos here. And you can also change the size of them by sliding these up and down here. And you can make them semi-transparent here if you want to also, okay? So I like mine kind of small because I feel like when they're full size, they get in the way and I can't see my sprites. But I like to be able to know that they're still there. So you can adjust that here in your upper toolbar. Okay, so here's my move. Script is on here. And if I look over in my inspector on my penguin in my move script, I have quite a few options. I can use arrow keys or I can use WASD to move him. Now, I prefer WASD, but you can choose whatever you like. That's part of the fun of it. And you have a speed option here. Now, I can make him go super fast, or I can slow him down. I'm going to slow him down to 3 right now because I did add some friction, but he's still going to travel fairly quick. Now, I have this drop down here. How do I want him to move? Do I want him to move in all directions? Well, since my game is free floating, he's free floating in the ocean, I do. But if I was going to have him on a platform game, I would have him go only horizontal, okay? And then he would be jumping, right? So it just depends on what you like. Okay. I would like him, if he was facing to the right or to the left instead of forward, I would click orient to direction. So I'm going to do this on my sardine because my sardine, when he's facing the left or the right, I want him to orient to direction. But with my penguin, I don't need him to. He's already facing forward and it's fine. So let's test this and see if I can have him play. So using my WASD keys, you can see that he moves. Okay, now let's test the collider a little bit. I'm going to have him run into this coral. Oh, yep, and he does move. But you see we have some problems here. He's spinning around. We need to fix that. So let's go out of play mode. Remember, to save any changes, you can't be in play mode in your game. You need to make sure that you can see here again, my play button is engaged. I need to go out of it by re-clicking on it. And I need to look and see, okay, why is he circling around? Now, I want to have constraints added to my rigid body. So in my rigid body, I want to freeze my rotation. So I'm going to click Z on freeze rotation so he doesn't tumble through space. And there's other options here. I can freeze my X and my Y. But let me go ahead and play again and see if that solved my problem. Let me run into the coral here. Yep, okay. So we know that the colliders are working good for both of them, and we know, well, he's going a little bit fast. So I want to make sure that I slow him down maybe a little bit more to his speed, to 2. Okay. Now I've got this. I want to do this also for my sardine. I'm going to add a collider. And if I want maybe some physics, because I'm going to be using him as a health, as eating like to power up for health. Okay. Oh, before I leave my penguin, let's do one more thing. Since the penguin is my main player, I always need to make sure that over here in my inspector, under tag, in the drop down, I need to tag him as player. What this does is it gives the script, any of these scripts that I'm using, it tells them that this is my main player. Okay. So when I go to my sardine or my coral here, if I use my coral, I can also tag it. But because it's not being collected or it's not an enemy, if I want him to be able to jump off of it, I would have to put ground. So anything that your character wants to jump off of, make sure you tag it ground. Okay, that's if you put a jump script onto your character, which you have here. This is a common one that's often added. So if I added this to my character, I could add it by dropping directly on him. I go to my penguin. Down here, I can see my jump. I use my space bar to make him jump. Okay, and his jump strength is 10. Let's bring it down to 4. Okay, and it says ground tag. That means that he can jump off of anything that is tagged ground. So if I go to my coral and I tag my coral as ground, then he can jump off of that. Okay, so anything that is being jumped on, then you need to tag it as ground. Okay, that's very important. Okay, now let's move on to the sardine. I have to add a collider first thing to my sardine because he's going to be penguin food. So let's see. I want to do maybe a circle collider. Okay, and maybe I want to offset this, or maybe make it a little bit smaller because I want him to be able to. This isn't really fitting well for me. I think you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off by clicking on these 3 dots over here and removing component. And I think I'm going to add a capsule collider 2D instead. And with this now, I can adjust how the size of it. Let's see. If I move in here. Direction vertical. I'm going to do this and the Y. Make it a little smaller. Offset. Yeah, this is better. I'm going to make him about like this. Okay, so this way. Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger this way. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to offset him back over here. So this is my collider for my sardine. I want it kind of close. Okay, now once I have one done, if I duplicate this sardine now, he's going to have this collider. So remember, if you set up one game object here, and I want to have a lot of sardines, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move him down to the bottom here, and I'm going to right click on him, oops, right click on him, and I'm going to create an empty parent. Now, what that does is it creates an empty game object and helps me create like a file system to keep my hierarchy organized. I'm going to call this Tasty Snacks. And I have my sardine here. Now I can right click and duplicate. And if I move it, you can see I've got another one. Now here I can flip my sardine here to give him a little variety. And I'm going to use these guys. I'm going to put a script on them, like a random script for them to be eaten. I need to tag him as, let's see, health or collectible. I think I'll tag him as pickup because I want him to be used as like a collectible or health, you know. And I should do it for the first one too. And then if I duplicate it, then they'll all have the tags correct on them. Okay. I'm going to put in first now, I'm going to go put in a UI, which means a user interface that I can use. That's going to come from here, from Unity Technologies. And it's going to be in my prefab folder. I have this user interface, which is going to be able to show scores. All I have to do, prefab means it was prefabricated for us, and all we have to do is drag and drop this prefabricated, you can tell it's blue all the way around, game object into my hierarchy. Okay, now when I do that and I go to my game view, now you can see that I've got health and a score, and I can go ahead and start playing this game if I want. Let's see what happens when I go eat the fish. Oh, nothing. So I got to make sure there's a script on the fish. I need to have a collectible script on the fish, right? So my sardines, and I can select them both and go to my scripts. And I need to find my collectible. Nope. I can never remember which one it's in. I think it's in attributes. Okay, here we go, collectible scripts. So I want to put it on both of these. And if I drag and drop it onto my fish, oops, didn't work that way. Let's do it over here because he's too small. Now he's collectible and he's worth, I can look here in my script and I can see, okay, he's worth 1 point. I can change the point values to higher if I want to. And it also gives me a little warning here. It says enable is trigger on the collider for this script to work. So on my capsule collider, this is where I need to say is trigger. This means that when the penguin enters the collider of this sardine, that it will trigger a collection worth 1 point. Okay, so if I hit play now, and I go ahead and eat my fish, my tasty snack, I get a score of 1. Okay, so I'm going to stop play and I'm going to show you one other option. Over here under my user interface, I've got quite a few different things that I can change here. Okay, But then the most important one is, what is my score to win? Okay. And I want to change that higher, maybe to like 50 or something, because I want to have all these sardines. I want to have him wandering around till he collects all these sardines or something like this. Or I'll make them health. I'm not sure yet. I haven't fully planned out this game in my head yet, but I'm using it for a demonstration for you. So anyways, you can change these options here in your user interface. Okay. There's a couple of other things you can do if you want to get more advanced in here. Like you can unpack this and change some colors or things like this. Okay. But for right now, what you really most need to worry about is score to win. Okay. I'm going to show you one other thing in this video, and then I'm going to pause it and do the next chapter after I've decorated and made this game a little bit stronger for you. So let's go to the main camera. I want to follow my penguin. So I want the camera to move around with him. So I'm going to go to my scripts, and I am going to, on my main camera, add a camera follow. You have to make sure your camera is selected. And I'm going to add this here to my camera. Let's put it down here. You can see the blue line here. Drop it, camera follow. Okay. So it's going to follow something. This script is saying, hey, I want this to follow something. So I have to say, wait, what is it going to follow? I have to click this little dial over here and choose what is it going to follow. Well, it's going to follow my penguin. So I'm going to click my penguin, double click it and select it. And now the camera will follow wherever my penguin goes. You can also adjust your deep background. We talked about this in an earlier video. So like what the game view will see outside of here. Sometimes it's nice if you take the eyedropper and you match it. If you match it, let's see, I'll double click this here, eyedropper, and I want it to match this one so that there's no seams across the edges of your background to what the camera is seeing. Okay. And you can also change like how, let me move out of my game here so you can see it. I can decide like how big it is, how wide. So I can make this adjust my whole viewport here. Now it's up to you how you want to adjust it, but that's within your camera, okay? And you can see your preview here while it's selected with your camera. So feel free to change any of these kind of things around. I'm going to play now so that you can see how the camera will now follow my penguin. So I can go down and eat this other sardine. Okay, I've already got my game started and working, and I will see you in the next chapter.